Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulil Amin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to the 5th session of Islamic Personality Development Program. Before we start the session, I welcome Brother Abdul Rahman to do the Qiraat.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Wa alaikum assalam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولله ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء قدير إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. السلام عليكم.
Jazakallah khair, brother. That was a truly beautiful recitation. Now I welcome Sister Rajwa to give an introductory message.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil amin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. So we are in our 4th lecture of the IPD course. The title is Contemplation, and the class is the continuation of our previous lecture we had discussed in the previous week, that is called contemplation. So in the previous week we have discussed about the magnificent creations, about their abilities. Subhanallah, it was really astonishing, right? So there are a lot of beings in the world that the creations, their anatomy, their physiology, and we were discussed about all of that, and we made a conclusion that it won't be possible that all that beings come from nothing, and there should be an intelligent design behind all this. So what make the humans differ from all that other creations? No doubt it's our brain. So in the Quran we can see in various places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says us to think, to contemplate, to reflect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compel us to think. So now the next question is how to think. Is there any methodology exist in it? So the answer is yes. That's the thing that we are going to discuss in this class. Mainly we cover 4 steps of methodology of spiritual contemplation that start with cognitive perspection and end in spiritual cognition. So I request you, all of you guys, to sharpen your ears, to turn off your social media accounts, social media notification, and to write all the things that you learned from this class. So I'm ending my words and Wahdan and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I invite Brother Wafi Shihad to handle the session.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Am I audible?
Walaikum assalam. Yes, yeah, yes, you're all good.
Sure. I'm sharing my screen. If you can see the screen too, do let me know.
Wafika?
Is the screen visible?
Yes, Wafika, just before starting, I want to bring to your notice one thing. The live transcription has been turned on, so the transcription may not be 100% correct. Sometimes it will translate weird things. It may be completely wrong. So we have turned it on just because it's easier for people to follow along. So kindly bear with it. I just wanted to make that a point.
Inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم وجاعل النور من الظلم ومخرج الصبر من الألم وملقي التوبة على الندم ونشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكروا أولي الألباب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, this is a blessed book which we have revealed to you, O Muhammad, that they might reflect upon its verses and that those of understanding would be reminded. Let me highlight the last part. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرُوا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Those of understanding would be reminded. And that is a very, very, very powerful verse. In the last class, we did have a very comprehensive discussion about the importance of using the mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave human beings minds to use it. Not so that we just close it off. No, we are supposed to use our minds. But sadly today, this discourse on using the mind, being intellectual, has been hijacked by the so-called atheist and the liberal groups. They claim that Muslims are people who are completely dogmatic. Muslims are people who don't use their minds. Muslims are people who are idiots, who are uneducated. Muslims are this and that, and they claim that Muslims have no relation or relatability with regards to intellectuality and rationality and logic and thinking and contemplation and introspection and pondering. Now, this is a very, very sad fact. And a lot of our brothers and sisters, young brothers and sisters who are studying in colleges, they fall for this trap. They think that Islam is a religion which has no importance with regards to thinking. And they look at Islam as if it's something that is very, very backward. Very, very backward. And then they jump out of Islam, thinking that the more scientific they become, the more atheistic they have to become. Let me ask you, my dear brothers and sisters, does studying science really make you an atheist? Does studying science really make you an atheist? Obviously no, right? Obviously no. And we're going to be having a deeper discussion on that. Now, just like we discussed in the last class, contemplation is actually a very important, integral part of being a Muslim. We're always told to think, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly asking us, do you not think and do you not ponder? Do you not use your minds, etc.? And we talked about the power of our minds in the last class, right? So in this session, we are actually going to go ahead with the question of how to use our minds. And there is a very clear-cut, simple, 4-step methodology that can be used. And it's called as contemplation. It's called as contemplation. And it was developed by Dr. Malik Badri. Does anyone know what Dr. Malik Badri is? Ever heard of his name? Dr. Malik Badri? Ever heard of his name? Dr. Malik Badri? Yes, he has written books, right? He has written books. Does anyone know which field he's related to? Which field he's related to? Very good, Nida. He's a pioneer of Islamic psychology, right? Pioneer of Islamic psychology. Anyone who is interested in Islamic psychology, it's mandatory that you read Dr. Malik al-Badri's book. Beautiful works. And one of his works is Contemplation, a Psycho-Spiritual Study, which is the book that we have basically based this presentation on, inshallah. Now, the question I would like to ask you is, do we really need guidance to think? Do we really need a step-by-step methodology to think? I mean, can't we just think the way we think? The truth is, we actually need guidance. We actually need guidance. And we are going to be discussing more on this on a later session that talks about the importance of guidance and what happens to human beings if we don't have guidance. If we don't have guidance. If you look around ourselves, we see different fields. For example, the people who go and learn philosophy. Is it a good idea to go and learn philosophy? Is it a good idea to go and learn philosophy? If you're going to learn philosophy, it's important, it's very important that you have a proper guidance. If you don't have that, you'll be stuck in a quagmire. You'll be stuck in a quagmire in which you will find it very hard to come out. If human beings don't have guidance, we will think and reach conclusions that are extremely evil, that are extremely diabolical and devilish and destructive and dissoluteful to the society. For example, have you heard about the term eugenics? What is eugenics? And it's crazy that human beings actually came up with, this particular concept. It's crazy that human beings actually came up with this concept. If you guys read the book, Man's Search for Meaning, written by Dr. Viktor Frankl, he actually talks about the Nazi camps that were in Germany. For example, in the Auschwitz camp, you know what they were doing? They were literally killing human beings. They were literally killing the Jews. They were literally killing the Jews. And you know what their reasoning was? Jews are evil, Jews did this and Jews did that, etc. They were castrating millions of people. They were burning millions of people in gas chambers. And these are human beings who are doing it. These are human beings doing it. If we just give our thought complete freedom to work in any way that it needs to work, it's going to reach conclusions that are extremely, extremely destructive. People who commit suicide, some of them, they actually come to this conclusion through rational thinking. Through rational thinking, even though it's a very irrational conclusion. So your mind is very, very powerful. And if it is not given the right and proper guidance, it's going to reach conclusions that are extremely far from reality, that are delusional, and that will completely destroy your life inside out, right? Anyway, we'll also be touching on these topics later on in the sessions, or later on in the other themes that are going to come in the other weeks. So I'm not going to go into the depth of this topic, but then coming back to the topic. We're actually supposed to use our minds, and one of the best ways to use our minds is through the methodology called as contemplation. In Arabic, it's called as Tafakkur. Write it down. Tafakkur. Now, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawzi, he stated in his notable work, Miftah Dar Sa'ada, the key to the house of bliss, he says that deep thought is the beginning and the key to all good. It is the best function of the heart and the most useful to it. So he's basically saying the best way to use your mind and your heart is to actually contemplate. And it gives you beautiful spiritual experiences. And I will share, a spiritual experience of mine if time allows. But the experience that you get through it's inexplicable. It's unexplainable. It's beyond linguistic comprehension. Right? It's so beautiful. It needs to be experienced for you to truly understand what it is. And therefore, it's very important that we just take some time out of our day just to sit silently and calmly and to think about the creation. If we do that on a consistent basis, it is impossible for us to even think of the predicament, even to think of the possibility of the creator not existing. It is impossible for a person to come to that conclusion. If you look at a lot of scientists who claim to be scientists and who say that creator or Allah doesn't exist or God doesn't exist, these are actually people who have not gone to the depth of science. And we'll have a discussion on that also in this particular session, inshallah. And the very sad reality is that the life that we live in, do you get a lot of time just to look at the sky and just to think about the creation? Do you get a lot of time to do that in today's world? No, right? We don't get time to do that. We are constantly engaged. The moment we wake up, we just look down on our phones. Then, we just, go through the day, maybe going to college, or, going to work, coming back, doing the same routine after routine after routine. So much so that we are not even aware of the fact that we are existing. We have become like zombies and robots, right? We have become like zombies and robots going on a routine. I mean, that is a very sad way to live. And that is the reality of the education system. We've almost been brainwashed to follow a corporate structure wherein which we have become slaves of a particular industry, wherein which we have sold our souls so that the profit makers can create tons and millions of dollars. Anyway, so the busy lifestyle, leaves very less time for meditative contemplation and introspection. It's very important that we sometimes take time out of our life to just look back and just think, like, what am I doing on this planet? Just look at your own hands, all right? Just look at your own hands. Look at the complexity of your hands. I mean, do it right now. Do it right now. Just look at your hands. Just take your hands. Now, it might feel very strange, but just take your hands. Just feel your hands. With the other hand, touch, okay, with the right hand, touch your left hand. Just touch through your left hand, touch your fingers, touch your fingers. Touch your nails, touch your palm, and just see how complicated this is. Think of the millions and millions of veins that are there in this hand. Millions and millions of veins that are there in this hand. Just look at, just fold your hands. It actually took millions of processes to actually just fold your hands. Just fold your hands. Anyone who is studying physiology, they'll never be able to deny the complexity of this one hand. If you want to create this one hand, from the perspective of mechatronics, if you want to program such a movement to a hand, you'll have to work for years and years. You'll have to work for years and years. That's how complicated your hand is. So it's important that we take some of time of our day to just think and use our minds. Just simply use our minds. I mean, just think about the universe. It's so beautiful, right? It's so beautiful. The recent images that were published by NASA, the James Webb Telescope, it was so beautiful. The galaxies, the planets, subhanallah, it's just so beautiful. I mean, we could spend hours and hours, just staring at this, right? Just staring at this. And the more we stare at this, we come to conclusions that are really, really insightful. Really, really insightful. And there's a sense of spiritual bliss that actually comes with this. There's actually a spiritual bliss that comes with this. And, the first time I experienced this, I think I was in my second year of college. I do remember during the second year of college, for some program or something, I actually went to Calicut. And, for the people who are not from Kerala, Calicut is actually a place in Kerala, and it is famous for a beach called as Calicut Beach. Do you guys know Calicut Beach? Of course, you would have known Calicut Beach if you are from Calicut, right? The Calicut Beach, come on, guys. You know that place, right? So, I learned about contemplation, but I actually did not know what its effects are on the mind, all right? So, once I went to Calicut Beach, and it was, right after Azhar, and, the sun was, the environment was beautiful. The sun was just coming down. And I just stood on the sand, just staring at the sky, staring at the beauty of the sky, staring at the waters, waves coming back and forth. And I literally did not know the time passing by. And I had my earphones on, and I was playing recitation. I don't remember who the reciter was, but it was very, very beautiful. And the ambience, man, it was so beautiful. I really wish I could go back and just stand in the same place, right? Maybe it's nostalgia. Anyway, so, I was standing there, and I was just staring at the sky, staring at the clouds, staring at the ocean, and just in very deep thought. And I was just standing. And literally, I did not know that I was standing for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. When I looked at the watch, that's when I knew that so much time has passed. And usually when we stand for that much time, our legs would start paining. But I was just standing there, and I was just in deep contemplation. I didn't know the time went so fast. And the time that I actually knew that was, my friends actually came, they saw, me standing, and they called me, I did not hear, and then somebody just came to me and just tapped on my shoulder. And that's like when I just came into my senses, like I was thinking, subhanallah, so much time has passed. And like though my mind was in a very, very calm state. It was in a very, very calm state. Like it was very serene. It was like pure bliss, I would say. It was pure bliss. Pure bliss. Have you ever guys experienced such a spiritual experience? When you are deep in thought, when you're deep in contemplation, when you're just thinking about the universe, thinking about the scientific aspects and the complexities and the sophistication of the universe. And that is beautiful, man. And that is really, really beautiful. Now, today, I'm going to explain the step-by-step methodology in which you can reach that particular stage. You can reach that particular stage. And there are actually certain strange things that happen right after that experience, but I don't wish to share that now. But let me say, like there are some things that science can't explain. It has to be experienced. Like literally, it has to be experienced, right? Anyway, I want you guys to close your eyes. Okay, I want you guys to close your eyes. And I want you to visualize and imagine what I'm going to say. If you closed your eyes, say yes in the chat. Okay, obviously, I'm not expecting you to type yes, all right? You can't type yes when you close your eyes, right? I'm just checking. Anyway, so imagine yourself. Imagine yourself. I want you to imagine your body. I want you to imagine your body. Close your eyes and imagine yourself, your face, the way you look. Don't pass any judgments on yourself. Just observe and imagine yourself, your body, your hands, your legs, your stomach, your eyes, your nose. Now imagine yourself standing outside your home. Compare your size, the size of your body to the size of your home. Now your body actually seems very small now, right? Okay. Now look at a tree that is near your home. Compare yourself or your size to that of the size of the tree. Okay. Now compare your size to the size of the mountain. Think of any mountain, whether it's Mount Everest or maybe in a smaller mountain. Compare your size to the size of a mountain. Now, obviously, it'll take some time to actually properly visualize this. Yourself seems very, very small now, right? Like you're just a very small speck compared to the entire mountain that has thousands and thousands of trees and millions of insects living on it. Huge mountain. Now the planet Earth has thousands and thousands of such mountains wherein which thousands and thousands of such insects are living, wherein which thousands and thousands of such animals are living, wherein which millions and millions of species of these organisms are existing. Think about the Amazon forest. Imagine it in your mind. I'll give you some time to properly visualize it. Think about it in as much clarity as possible. The Amazon forest, the great Amazon forest. You can hear the sounds of the birds, the sounds of exotic animals. You can see the beautiful river going through the middle of the Amazon forest. A river that is as vast as your eyes can see. Now think about the Atlantic Ocean. Think about you standing on the top of a ship. You're looking left, right, and the only thing that you see is ocean, vast ocean, without a speck of a land. Vast ocean, thousands and thousands of kilometers of blue water, just ocean. Think about the powerful volcanoes on this planet that are spitting literal fire lava. Think about the heat of this lava. Now think about every type of organism that you know. The elephant, the lion, the cheetah, the microbial organism, the bacteria, Think about the birds, the falcon, the eagle, the pigeons, the crows. Think about different types of fish, the whale, the shark, the jellyfish. Subhanallah, so beautiful, right? It's almost like watching National Geographic or Animal Planet. So beautiful. You can see that literally in front of your eyes now. You're imagining it in your mind. Now, this is just the planet Earth. The planet Earth is so beautiful. It's so complex. It's so sophisticated. Say Subhanallah from the depth of your heart. Subhanallah from the depth of your heart. This is just planet Earth. Now, I want you guys to think about, this planet is in as much vivid detail as possible. Now, this is all the planet Earth. Now think about the solar system. There are planets that are much, much bigger. We have Jupiter, we have Saturn. We have planets that are very, very unique. Mars, which is just a barren land. We have a lot of different kinds of planets. Saturn with a ring. Jupiter with tornadoes that are far bigger than we can imagine. Kilometers, like 60 or 70 kilometers of tornado. That is huge. This is just a solar system. Now compare the size of the Earth to the sun. Even if you keep hundreds and thousands of Earths together, you won't reach the size of the sun. Now, I'm just talking about sun. Sun is like a very small star in the universe. There are stars that are much, 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 much bigger. Hundreds and millions and millions and millions of times bigger than the sun. Hundreds and millions of times bigger than the sun. I want you to imagine this in as much detail as possible. If you're doing it in as much efficiency as it should be done, like you will literally feel, your mind trembling with the magnitude of what you're imagining. This is just the stars. Now let's look at the Milky Way galaxy with a black hole at the center. The Milky Way galaxy that has thousands and thousands of such stars that are far, far millions and millions of times greater than the sun, bigger than the sun, humongous than the sun. I want you to imagine hundreds and hundreds of different forms of galaxies. The galaxy we are in, it's called as a Milky Way galaxy. Thousands and thousands of different types of galaxies that form together called as a local galactic group. Then I want you to imagine thousands and thousands of such galaxies coming together to form the Virgo supercluster. I want you to imagine millions and millions of such Virgo supercluster that are compilations and compendiums of galaxies that are humongous, far more humongous than even our mind can comprehend. Thousands and thousands of such Virgo superclusters coming together to form local superclusters. And billions of such local superclusters coming together to form the observable universe. The observable universe is far, far smaller compared to the unobserved universe that are far, far farther than the telescopes can reach. Even with the most powerful telescopes, we are unable to reach there. I want you to compare your size to the size of the observable universe. It is almost impossible for us to completely comprehend this, but I want you to do it as if it's possible. Just use all mind capacity, all cognitive power that you have in your mind and imagine this and visualize this. Compare your size to the size of the observable universe. Even when we compare our size to the size of the earth, like we are like an atom, and compare it to the size of the observable universe. Now take a deep breath in and breath out. Open your eyes very slowly. Type Subhanallah in the chat by saying it from the depth of your heart. What did you feel when you did this? What did you feel when you did this? This is actually one form of contemplation. Now, we just discussed about the observable universe, right? And the scary thing is we are just still in the first heaven. All the observable universe, like this is just the first heaven. The first heaven, all right? The first heaven. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Mulk, chapter number 67, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ, which means we have decorated the first heaven with stars. So every single thing that we have seen in the universe, like it's just the first heaven. The second heaven is far bigger than the first heaven. The third heaven is bigger than the second heaven. The fourth heaven is bigger than the third heaven. The fifth heaven is bigger than the fourth heaven. The sixth heaven is bigger than the fifth heaven. The seventh heaven is bigger than the sixth heaven. Allah is the creator of all these heavens, and the arsh of Allah is far bigger than that. Compare yourself to the magnanimity of what you're even imagining. Subhanallah. Now think about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you, an organism that is even far smaller than the atom in existence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has literally directly talked to you and given you guidance in the form of the Holy Quran. Imagine the privilege that we have been given. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dear brothers and sisters. Think about the situation of an atheist, an organism that is like smaller than an atom, smaller than an electron to Allah. He's saying that Allah is this, Allah is that. Do you think it's going to affect the magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Not even an ounce, right? Not even an ounce. Subhanallah, subhanallah. Anyway, this is like a small contemplation that we did. So we need to understand that if you study science, if you study about the universe, you're not going to become an atheist. Of course not. Maybe if you studied a little bit, it can make you an atheist. Just like Francis Bacon, he says that little knowledge of science actually makes you an atheist. Because you don't even know science very well. You just studied, maybe you just finished your degree and master degrees, in which, you just learn very little science, right? Very little science. Degree, like it's the basics. If you took a degree in physics, you just did the basics, right? You just did the basics. And then you think, just after studying physics a little bit, and you think, oh man, now I've mastered science. I can clearly say that, God does not exist. I mean, like that is utter stupidity. If you go in depth to science, and Francis Bacon rightly says, in-depth knowledge of science makes you a believer in God. Makes you a believer in God. Is this true or false? This is true or false? This is coming from Francis Bacon. This is coming from Francis Bacon, a true intellectual mastermind. Anyway. So the more you learn about the world, the deeper your insight and your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases. This is why it's very important to contemplate. Now, the next question I would like to ask is meditation haram? Is meditation haram? Okay, imagine this. Imagine this. I removed my coat and suit, and I put a very black cloth on, and I went to the Himalayas, and I sat on the Himalayas, and I say, and and I'm just breathing inside and breathing out and doing ritualistic activities and calling it meditation. Is that allowed? It'll be pretty funny to even think of me having that long beard and sitting in the Himalayas. Anyway, so that is not allowed, right? That is like very clearly, that is not allowed. Why is that not allowed? Even though they call it meditation, it's actually a religious ritual. That is what exactly they're doing. Meditation is simply breathing out and breathing in and refocusing. All right, refocusing. But then if you're connecting it with certain religious rituals, and of course it's shirk, it's kufr, it's haram. We don't do that. We don't do that, right? As Muslims, we stick to aqidah, right? We stick to the true path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when it comes to meditation, other forms of meditation that have roots in other religions, like we are not supposed to follow it. We're not supposed to follow it. If you go to some meditation camps conducted by these so-called, mind-tuning trainers who call themselves psychologists, a lot of things they do, since they're not very educated in theology, they take a lot of, contents from a lot of articles they read online, and they, tell us, breathe in and breathe out, say this word 10 times, say that word 10 times, and you will manifest this and you will manifest that. I mean, like that is a lie. Where you just like, it's just make believe, and when it comes to a theory, a concept that you may know, do you know the concept of LOA, law of attraction? Have you heard about this word, law of attraction? Now, inshallah, if I get time, I'll try to give you a very comprehensive, in-depth idea about what law of attraction is, what its problems are, and where, like, which part can we like literally agree with. Or there are certain aspects to which we can agree with certain things, but majority, like, it's very, very rooted in a lot of ritualistic practices that actually from another religion. A lot of people will actually be shocked to hear this. A lot of people will be shocked to hear this. Anyway, I'll try to give you a session if it is possible, if time allows, inshallah. But then, the book written by, I literally have this book right now on my table, The Secret. Have you heard about The Secret? Have you heard about the book, The Secret? There was a documentary that was released. What year was this? 2014 or 2013? I don't remember. I was 13 years old or something. There was a documentary that was released. It's called As the Secret. As a Secret. And it talks about a lot of these things. Anyway, we'll have a proper discussion on that. But fundamentally, if you believe that you think something, right? The fundamental principle of LOA, the law of attraction, is that positive thoughts affect positive things and negative thoughts attract negative things. There are a lot of epistemological, ontological, and normative problems with this theorization. And, if we go to, the people who practice LOA back in Caroline, if you try to engage with them in a discussion, the thing that I've seen is a lot of these people, they're not very well educated in theology. They're not very well educated in philosophy. Even when we say the epistemology of the law of attraction is actually from an external source to Islamic theology, they really don't understand what we're saying. And, I'm not saying that these people are bad people. I'm not saying that these people are evil people. No, I consider them, people who really don't know. They're very good people. They're very, they're doing it with good intention, but they just don't know what they're doing. And they just very firmly believe in what they're doing, right? They really firmly believe in what they're doing. Anyway, we'll have a proper discussion on that so that we can understand what are the problems with regards to this conceptualization. Anyway, the fundamental thing that I'm saying is, if you believe that you think something, and if you believe that the universe is bringing it to you, like Paulo Coelho says in, his book, The Alchemist, and, The Alchemist, it's actually a very good, feel-good book. And, it's very motivating. It's good. If you want to get a feel-good, joyful feeling, of course you can read it. But if you're trying to deduce theological principles from a book of fiction, then I'm really sorry. That is not how you should be dealing with theology as a whole. So what I'm finally saying is, if you believe that you think something good and the universe is going to bring it to you, then la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, that is shirk. That is kufr. No doubt. All right? There is no doubt in that. And I've seen people who just read this book, The Alchemist, they literally give it their own interpretation without having a proper idea of theology. And then they try to define and describe it without understanding the seriousness of what they're doing. All right. But then, it's all make believe, it's all positive things. And the thing is, if we see a person saying positive thing, It's good. It's nice that you're saying positive things. It's good that you're helping a lot of people. But then if you're using, concepts that are clearly going against the fundamentals of Islam, how can that be, agreed? Now, of course, there are certain aspects of LOA in which we can slightly agree with. For example, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, where which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if you are grateful, I will give you more. Gratitude journaling, it's a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. Affirmations, if you do affirmations, in which, you're trying to improve your confidence and all those, it's a very good thing. But then there are certain affirmations which are just, like literally egocentric, saying that I'm the best and all these things. All right. Anyway, I don't wish to take that'll be a huge tangent if we go there. But what I'm basically saying is we need to be very careful when it comes to such practices, because they might have ritualistic rootings. We need to be very, very careful of this. We need to take it in as much seriousness as possible, because aqidah, we can't compromise on aqidah. Anyway, now Islamic contemplation is actually the best form of meditation. Now, I'm going to be getting into the theory of Islamic contemplation. What is the 4-step methodology? Now, try to take screenshot of what I'm saying, all right? Or try to write it down as fast as, I say, because I'll be going a bit more faster. But, we will focus on a practical way on how to apply the 4-step methodology. Islamic contemplation passes through 3 interconnected stages, leading to a 4th and final stage, which I call the stage of spiritual cognition. These are the words of Dr. Malik Badri. So he's saying that there are 3 stages. If you do these 3 stages very well, you will reach the 4th stage. And the 4th stage is called what, guys? It's called as spiritual cognition, or shuhud. Islamic contemplation is actually a form of worship that binds the heart and the mind, the rational with the emotional, and the sensible with the passionate, so that sober contemplators may be in a better spiritual state in which their prayers, God willing, will be more acceptable. And this is where, Islamic contemplation is actually very, very unique. If you look at a lot of these meditative practices from the Eastern traditions, from the Eastern religions, from the Eastern philosophies, especially the Chinese and the Japanese, you clearly see that they're mostly focused on the emotional aspect, in which they are literally denying the rational aspect, right? They're literally denying the rational aspect, right? So a lot of them, like we see that when they go into the meditative stages, like they lose a sense of awareness about themselves and the world. But in Islam, we don't have that. In Islam, we combine the rational with the emotional, the sensible with the passionate, all right? Now, likewise, the occasional paranormal experiences that may occur as a result of very deep meditation, which are so valued by Eastern and Western mystics to the extent that they are prepared to discard reasoning or tolerate severe bodily pain to secure them, are neither sought nor are the objects of excitement in true Islamic contemplation. So this is a very unique distinction and categorical difference between Eastern meditative practices and Islamic contemplation. Now, this is the book. I would highly recommend you to read this book, Contemplation in Islamic Psycho-Spiritual Study. Have you guys seen this book before? Any one of you who have seen this book or read this book or heard about this book before? It's a good book. Highly recommended to read. Highly recommended to read. Okay, now what are the 4 stages of contemplation? The first stage is called as sensory perception. The second stage is called as cognitive appreciation. The third step is called as divine connected contemplation. The 4th step is called as spiritual cognition. And guys, if you don't understand the terminologies, no problem whatsoever. We are going to be explaining each step in detail and we're going to practice it together. All right. So don't worry. Some people, when they see perception, cognition, etc., they get a bit, anxious. So don't worry. This is not the general, science class in which they use big terms and they just leave it at that without explanation. All right. So we'll have a proper explanation of what these are, but just read it with me. Sensory perception, cognitive appreciation, divine connected contemplation, spiritual cognition. All right. If you finish reading it, say yes. Well, at least you need to have this fed into the mind. Like these words should be there as we move ahead. Okay. Now, the first stage is called as sensory perception. So sensory perception is very simple. All right, very simple. We just use our sensory organs. What are the sensory organs? We have the ears, we have the tongue, we have the nose, right? We have the eyes, we just observe things. So the first step is just observation. All right, just observation, just using your sensory organs. So the first stage is when knowledge of the contemplated objects comes through the direct sensory perception, sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, or indirectly, as in the case of imagination, right? So you just use your sensory organs, your eyes, just to see, just to observe. You use your ears just to listen and hear. And guys, let me ask you this question. What is the difference between hearing and listening? What is the difference between hearing and listening? What is the difference between hearing and listening? I'll give some time to type it. Okay, listening is intentional and hearing is just perceiving. Very good. Very good. Very good. You know, human beings, like, we always hear, like, just we like discussed in the last class, like, our mind is like, our brain is constantly functioning, our ears are constantly functioning, right? We are constantly hearing everything that is happening around us, but we don't usually hear everything. We don't hear, everything, right? We just hear things that we are attending to, or that is called as listening. That is called as listening. That's why, usually in the marital psychology classes, the professor was saying, don't just hear, listen. Don't just hear, listen. Like, this is the first time, like, when I came cognizant of the, linguistic distinctive differentiation between both these two terms. So hearing is just your ability to hear. You're just constantly hearing. Your ears are constantly, sucking in, auditory stimulus from the surroundings. But when you're listening, you're just concentrating, you're focusing, and you're attentive. All right. So in sensory perception, you are attentive to the sensations or to the stimulus that you see around you. All right. Now, such information can be purely mental and often has no relation to emotional or sentimental aspects. All right. When you look at an object, the information regarding structure, design enters the mind. Now let's do a practical activity to just see what I'm talking about. So what do you see here? What do you see here? Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call a volunteer. All right, I'm going to call a volunteer. But since the audio is only allowed for the host, I'll just call one of the hosts. All right. So Fadia Jafar, can you hear me? Fadia Jafar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So we're going to do the first step. All right. Now, what do you see here? What do you see in this image?
I see leaves coming from the branches of the tree.
All right. Now, Sister Fadia, I want you to focus on the leaf. All right. I want you to focus on this leaf, and I want you to tell me everything that you see in this leaf. I want you to tell me about its structure, everything that you can see.
So I see the leaves that they are light green in color, and that it has these veins on them. I don't know what they are named properly.
Okay. Very good. Good job, Sister Fadia. Sister Fadia. So we have the leaves here. Sister Fadia, she just explained, the structure of the leaf. She explained what she saw in the leaf, the leaf having a rugged structure, the pattern of the leaf, right? And this is just basically the first step. And for most people, just happens reflexively, right? For most people, it just happens reflexively. So that is the first step. It's very, very simple. Just observing the structure. The second step is called as cognitive appreciation. So in the second step, what you basically do is the things that you observed, you take a closer look at it. You take a closer look at it, its characteristics. You take a closer look, at its aesthetic aspects. You take a closer look at its particular qualities. All right. And it is a shift from mere perception to a state of wonder and the beauty, excellence, vastness of the structure and the miraculous appearance of the perceived object. And it's actually a stage of fine appreciation, delicate feelings, and powerful passion. So what you basically do is you look at the leaf and you look at its structure, you look at its pattern, and then you also apply your knowledge, in that you learned in science. You guys have obviously learned about xylem and the phloem. Xylem carries what? Xylem carries what? in the leaves? People who are studying botany, very good. Xylem carries the water and minerals. What about the phloem? What are the phloem? The phloem carries the food, right? So we just apply the things that we learn. All right. Now let's see how we're going to be applying this. All right. Now, okay, who would like to volunteer for this activity? Who would like to volunteer for this activity? Anyone? Okay, so Sania raised her hand. I want the host to allow Sania to speak. The host, please give Sister Sania. Okay, are you speaking?
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. All right. So we're going to be doing this activity here, all right? And the second stage, it's called as cognitive appreciation. So I want you to look at the leaf. So, these are magnified images of the leaf. I want you to look at it and I want you to tell me everything that you see. I want you to apply all the knowledge that you have in science and, tell me everything that you know about the leaf. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not able to see. I'm not able to see any picture.
Guys, can you see the picture, the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Sania, there might be technical issues on your side. Can you see it now?
No.
All right, no problem. I want you to visualize a leaf, a close-up of a leaf in your mind. And I want you to tell me everything that you know about a leaf, all right?
Okay, it has stomata, which helps in to take carbon dioxide and release oxygen, which is beneficial for survival.
Very good.
And it has veins, which helps to supply water and minerals.
Okay,
It has
go ahead.
and it is green in color. It has cell wall. The cell of plant has cell wall. It has nucleus, and it has vacuoles, which helps in storage.
MashaAllah, excellent.
And
Thank you.
plasma membrane.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Sania. So, Sister Sania, you looked at the different structures, that you applied your scientific knowledge. So very good. So this is exactly what we are supposed to do. So thank you, Jazakallah khair, for your participation. Now, Sister Sania, she basically demonstrated the second stage of contemplation. So what she did was, she looked at the leaf, she looked at the different structure of the leaf. She talked about the stomata, she talked about the cell wall of the plant, she talked about the xylem and the phloem, etc. Right? And that is, that shows that she has insight in science. So she's basically looking at the structure of the leaf and she's appreciating it. She's appreciating it. I want you guys to do the same. Just look at the leaf, the different structures on the leaf. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. And I actually used to do it. I'm actually from a district called as Malappuram. Anyone from Malappuram here? It's actually a district in Kerala. And you know what I used to do? Some people might think this is crazy. Anyway, so in the morning, while I used to go for running, I used to go for running in the morning, right after Fajr. And if you run about 3 kilometers from home, you get to a mountain. And above this mountain, there's a forest. So what I used to do is, I used to climb the mountain early in the morning. It's also, a good form of exercise. And I would just go to this forest. I would have a book and also the Quran with me. It's not a book actually, it's Kindle. I carry the Kindle because it's having less weight. So I just go to this forest and I just observe. Like I just literally observe the mountains. I just observe the sky. And I just breathe in and breathe out. Like it's a very refreshing activity. I recite maybe the whole Quran maybe for 30 minutes. And I just observe the different kinds of leaves, different kinds of fruits, the different kinds of trees, the different kinds of flowers. It's just very, very beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. A funny thing that happened was, just sharing something funny. sometimes I used to do that in the morning, and sometimes I used to do that, along the lines of, the evening, or, maybe it's closer to the Maghrib time. All right. So one day, I went in the evening time. It was closer to Maghrib, because, climbing the mountain, they actually take some time. Like it's a very tedious activity. And, I climbed the mountain, I reached the top. Like, it was a very beautiful ambience, right? The sun was just setting, like, it was a very beautiful ambience. And you know what? I started reciting the Holy Quran very loudly. And there was a guy, like, who was at the, like, bottom of the mountain. And the mountain, like, it's not a very huge mountain. So from the top, like, you can hear the voice to the bottom. So I was reciting Holy Quran loudly, and the guy, like, he was down, and he's looking up the mountain, and he's not seeing anyone, right? If you look up, like, you can't see anyone. Like, it's almost like you can only see trees and grass and everything. And the guy is just standing there, and the guy is just staring. And, like, it started getting dark, so I just climbed down. Now this guy, he has called his friends, and he's just waiting there, with his bike. I remember there was an Activa and a Bullet there, just parked there. That was just waiting there. And they were just staring at me, like, when I came down. And, they have seen me multiple times, riding the bike in the morning. And these guys, like, they saw me in this. Subhanallah, it was you. Like, we thought it was a jinn. Like, we are hearing Quran recitation in the Maghrib time from the mountain. Like, it was really funny. Like, it was literally funny. Anyway, guys, don't go to forests in the night. It's very dangerous. All right, don't do it. Right, don't do it. Anyway, just sharing a funny story that an experience that I had. Anyway, now coming back to the topic. So, I used to do this, and, like, it's actually a very, very beautiful experience. All right, it's a very, very beautiful experience. You can, go together with your friends, or you can, go alone, or, like, whatever your aesthetic sense is. Anyway, so just try to observe the trees, the leaves around you, and just observe them. Just look at the intricate, complicated structural design. And it's so beautiful. When you see it, you need to appreciate it from the depth of your heart. That is the second stage. That is the second stage. What is the second stage? You look at the intricate design of what you're observing. You apply the knowledge that you have. That's it. And you appreciate it. You just appreciate complexity. So these are the two stages. And we'll get to the third stage. Is the second stage clear? If it is clear, say yes. If it is clear, say yes. Very good. Okay, now let's go to the third stage. The third stage is called as divine connected contemplation. Now, this is the most important part of the contemplative methodology. Okay, so the third stage is called as divine related contemplation. So the third stage is when the meditator crosses the boundary between the created object of the contemplation and its creator. So what you basically do is this. You basically connect the second stage with the third stage. How do you do that? For example, you looked at the leaf and you saw stomata, or maybe the British people will say stomata, right? Stomata and stomata, the accentual difference. Anyway, stomata or stomata, and you look at that particular aspect, that the design, you look at the chlorophyll, you look at the carbon cycle, right? You look at the various functionalities of the leaf. Then you connect it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You think that subhanallah, Allah created this amazing object. How magnificent is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How creative is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How amazing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then you say from the depth of your heart, you say subhanallah. You say subhanallah. You say tabarakallahu ahsan al-khaliqin. And I used to constantly do that. While sitting in my +2, while studying biology, I do remember, like, while studying the classification of organisms, like, I used to constantly write tabarakallahu ahsan al-khaliqin, like, in between the pages. So try to say it as much as possible from the depth of your heart. Whenever you see something amazing, like, some people just say wow. Some people just say in English amazing. Some people say fantastic. Some people say fabulous. Like, some people say super. That is amazing, right? Is that what we're supposed to say as Muslims? Okay, we can say that. I'm not saying that it's haram, but it's far better to say subhanallah, say masha'Allah, right? Say masha'Allah and say subhanallah. So this is far better. So the third step is basically you looking at the intricate design of the object, and then you're connecting it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then saying subhanallah from the depth of your heart. So you're going to do the exercise again. Now, Okay, who wants to volunteer? Raise your hands. So we have Sister Samreen Fatima. So Samreen Fatima, the host, please give her the mic. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, now, sister, I want you to look at this particular image. I want you to look at this particular picture. And I want you to go through the 3 steps, all right? The first step is just observing. So I want you to say everything that you're observing.
So I can see the mountains here covered with the dense green forest, and there are a lot of trees of different kinds.
MashaAllah. So you see trees, you see mountains, you see clouds, you see the sky, right? You see mountains in the back, then mountains in the front, right? So, okay, very good,
Yes.
very good. So that is the first stage, the stage of sensory perception. Now, the second stage is cognitive appreciation. So I want you to apply all the knowledge that you have about the things that you have seen, maybe the sky, the trees, or maybe the roots. You can see the branches of the trees, right? The mountains. Apply the knowledge that you know about all these things.
Yes, I can see there is something like there is so much diversity in that. You know how much there are trees there. There could be many creatures down there that we're not able to see this time, but they are present there, and they all are different from each other. And we can see a lot in this if we go deeply through this.
Okay, mashallah, very good. So you applied the second stage, you applied your knowledge, you said that, there might be a lot of creatures under it, which are very complicated. So we have a lot of different kinds of trees, a lot of different kinds of, different colors also. We can see, light green, dark green. We know the different, categorizations of chlorophyll. We have chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B. We have, chlorophyll that actually gives different colors. We can also think about how the leaves or the molecules inside the leaves there are basically, basically imbibing in certain waves of electromagnetic spectrum and spitting out certain wavelengths so that we see different shades of green, etc. So we can apply all this knowledge. We can look at the different forms, different shapes of trees. Maybe there are trees whose roots are very far deep in the soil. Maybe there are trees that are not having very strong roots, right? Okay, so
Absolutely.
Samreen, mashallah, you applied the second stage. Now I want you to apply the third stage, connect it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then say subhanallah.
Subhanallah, when we just observe it, we're really going to think that there are plants in each and every leaf, that the food is getting delivered, and there are millions of veins under the trees, the xylem and the phloem, the other tissues that are delivering the water, minerals, and the food to every single leaf out there. And there are millions of leaves in the different kind of trees, and there can be different species of the trees too. So they all are having their own cycles. They all are having their own method to prepare the food. Some might have different kind of mechanism to prepare the food, different mechanism to use the sun rays, to totally different. Some might have a lot of birds and insects on themselves. Some might have parasites, and some might just they are shady plants, so they don't need much sunlight, but they're still able to manage to prepare food for themselves, and they're still growing and
Very
thriving.
good. Very good, mashallah. So we connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we say, subhanallah, how amazing is Allah who created all of this, right? Mashallah, Sister Samreen, you did an excellent job. Very good. Thank you for your
Jazakallah.
presentation.
Jazakallah.
Barakallah fik. Now, so we applied the third stage. Now, what we see here is very peculiar. The more knowledge we have, the more we are able to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when it comes to trees and plants, the best person to actually speak about this would be, somebody who is based in botany. And I know, I studied in Furry College, and there's a professor or a lecturer of botany from Furry College. His name is Adnan Sar. Adnan Sar, are you here? Adnan Sar, are you here? If you're here, could you say yes in the chat? Yeah, so could anyone, the host, please give him the mic. I think Adnan will actually be able to give us, more depth. And for the people who don't know Adnan sir, let me introduce. He's actually a lecturer from the Department of Botany from Farooq College, one of the best teachers in Farooq College, actually. A man who is very well based in Deen, mashallah, one of the most practicing people in the college that I've seen, a person that I truly respect in the college, inshallah. So Adnan sir, can you take the mic?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you doing?
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, I'm really enjoying the session, and I have carried out my research in Silent Valley National Park. Okay, what we are seeing in the photograph is just the aerial view of a forest, but when walk through the forest, we can see many more magnificent creatures, and even as wrote in the chat box, there are so many things we cannot see by our naked eyes. And when we took the samples into the laboratory and we cut their sections, and when we see the structures of the minute fungus or mushrooms in the laboratory, we can see magnificent structures that will take us to it will take us to the creator. Only those who are very much blind can simply say these are a part of evolution, and there is no explanation for how these structures are evolved. Okay, so I can tell more because I'm much excited to hear the observations of the other brothers and sisters who have joined in this session. Okay, anyway, inshallah we will meet again.
Thank you for sharing shining your insights, Adnan sir. Thank you very much. We'll probably meet when I come back to Kerala, inshallah. Now, just like Adnan sir just said, the things that we see, like the things that we don't see, it's far more than what we really see, right? He very clearly explained, his experience in Silent Valley, and from the top you're just seeing, just the canopies of the trees. While we just walk through it, it's more beautiful, right? It's more beautiful. Say Subhanallah. Say Subhanallah from the depth of your heart. Say Subhanallah from the depth of your heart. Okay, now moving ahead. This is the third stage of contemplation. Now, the fourth stage is actually an automatic process. The fourth stage is what you reach if you do the third stages very well. And the fourth stage is called as spiritual cognition. Spiritual cognition. Now, when this refined meditation is repeated and reinforced with continual remembrance of the Almighty, it leads to worshipper to the fourth stage called as the spiritual cognition. Here, the spiritual feelings associated with deep contemplation become part of the worshipper's nature and make him or her more loving towards and fearful of God and his sublime attributes. These feelings continually experienced are beyond verbal description. And it's literally beautiful. It's literally beautiful. We have to experience this. But the thing is, if you need to get to this stage, you're not going to be able to get it readily. If you just do the third stage, you're not going to get there. You have to perfect the art. You have to perfect the art of the first three stages, and then you will automatically come to the fourth stage, that is the stage of spiritual cognition. Now, do you guys sometimes feel inability to concentrate? You open a book, you're not able to focus, you try to think of something, or maybe you're in a class and you're just daydreaming, right? You're just daydreaming. Do you have that problem? Now, people with that problem will find it very hard to follow the first three stages very well, right? It's in psychology, it's called zoning out or mind zoning, daydreaming and all these things. Like, this is a huge problem. And one of the biggest contributing factors to this, you know what it is your digital media use. And sometimes what your mother said is right. Your mothers might have always said, you're using phone a lot. Have your mothers ever said this? Or maybe your fathers? You're using your phone a lot. That is actually true to an extent. Now, let me repeat, to an extent, all right? If you get a fever and your mother says you're using your phone a lot, no, that doesn't mean you having a fear because of using the phone, all right? But yes, it is true to an extent. If you use your phone a lot, it affects your span of attention, it affects your memory ability, it affects your cognitive capacities, right? So you using your phone will actually affect your focus. Like, it's scientifically proved. There are a lot of studies with regards to this. So it'll take some time for you to perfect the first 3 stages. If you do it, repeatedly, whenever you get free time, just look outside the window, or just look at your hands, just think about your body, just look at the sky, and repeat the 3 stages. If you do it consistently, your focus will improve a lot. Your focus will improve a lot, and you will finally get to the 4th stage, and that 4th stage is called as the stage of spiritual cognition. There are a lot more insights that we need to be discussing, but we are going to be skipping a lot of things here because we don't have much more time. But just to say it in brief, for photosynthesis, it cannot be accomplished without the elements of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Similarly, Islamic contemplation also has some ingredients. If you don't have these ingredients, you won't be able to do contemplation. You won't be able to do contemplation, right? So sunlight shines on green leaves with an energy that completely transforms the clear gas, carbon dioxide, and transparent water into a new substance. That is glucose that has no resemblance to either hydrogen, oxygen, or black carbon. The people who don't have base in botany, no problem whatsoever. If you don't understand this, no problem. You're not going to miss anything, because I'm just giving an analogy to connect the next concept that I'm going to explain. All right. So basically, sunlight. If there is no sunlight, is photosynthesis possible? Without sunlight, is photosynthesis possible? No, it's not possible. So sunlight is basically a very, very core element here. A very, very core element here. Similarly, when doing contemplation, you need a core element. Do you know what that core element is? That is spirituality. That is spirituality. And that goes back to the previous question that somebody asked in the chat. Just saw a glimpse of that question. And that is, why is Stephen Hawking an atheist? Why is Mikio Kaku an atheist? Why is Neil deGrasse Tyson an atheist? Why is Professor Richard Dawkins an atheist? Why is Dr. Sam Harris an atheist? Why is Dr. Daniel Dennett an atheist? Why do we have atheist scientists if you say that thinking about scientific facts makes you a believer? Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is? Now, this is where we come to this, fundamental thing. This core element of spirituality, that deeper insight into the world. Faith. If you don't have that, contemplation will have no output whatsoever. That 3rd stage of contemplation, if you don't have that, how are you going to reach the 4th stage? You're not going to reach it. And this, there's actually a concept called as paradigm in philosophy. Maybe, if we get time later on, we'll explain what paradigm is. Componential aspects of paradigm, ontology, epistemology, normativity, etc. But then the scientists, they look at the world from a materialistic perspective, from a materialistic, naturalistic paradigm. If they apply and see the world with that lens, how do you expect to have spirituality in that? Materialism and naturalism is devoid of spirituality, fundamentally. Anyway, so observing the creation, a person can have a lot of knowledge, but yet not reach, the godly divine experience that I'm saying. And that is because they just have knowledge, but they don't essence this knowledge with spirituality, right? Spirituality. So a lot of scientists, they can do the 1st stage and they can do the 2nd stage, but they will never be able to do the 3rd stage. The 3rd stage can only be achieved by the believers. The believers who do the 3rd stage very correctly, they are the only people who are going to reach the 4th stage. They are the only people who are going to reach the 4th stage. All right. So what I'm basically saying is, try to follow this method whenever you get a chance. The more you do it, the better you will be committed. The more you do it, the better you will be committed. So guys, is the 4th step methodology clear? Is the 4th step methodology clear? You don't need to remember all the information, but if the concept is clear, then we can go ahead. So try to apply it as much as possible. All right, try to apply it as much as possible. It's not very important that you need to be, rigidly, methodological. Okay, you don't need to think, okay, now I'm going to apply sensory perception. Then you, point your eyes towards certain objects. Then you tell to yourself in a robotic voice, okay, now I'm going to apply the 2nd stage, that is the cognitive appreciation. Then you appreciate. That is not, okay, maybe firstly you will need to do as such so that, you can have a flow. Then, just like the author says in the book Ikigai. Ikigai is a book that was based on a Japanese concept. Now, we actually get into a very state of flow. So first you observe, then you appreciate by applying your knowledge, then you connect it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, constantly do it, and you will reach the fourth stage, that is the stage of spiritual cognition. All right. So what basically happens is, if you do it, everything that you see in the environment, it gets connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you truly start appreciating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You truly start having that sense of gratitude in your heart. You truly start having that. When you have that, you are saved, my friends. If you have that, you'll be able to maintain your iman, in a much more efficient manner. Now, there are a lot of benefits of contemplation. We don't need to focus more on this, but just running through it, it increases iman, it increases God consciousness, and many experimental studies conducted in clinics and medical laboratories using latest methods in measuring psychophysiological changes have proved that the concentrative meditation, such as transcendental meditation, is really a medical revolution in which patients use their mental, cognitive, spiritual powers in curing their ailments and enriching their psychological life. What it basically means is that there are a lot of psychological research papers that prove that if you do contemplation, your life is going to become better. So try to stay focused without distractions. This is very, very important. At first, if you need to do this very efficiently, you may not be able to do this while you are in a crowd. You may not be able to do this while there is, something playing in the background. You may not be able to do this while your small child in your home is running around like a literal madman, throwing things, here and there. I've seen a recent case that I've seen is, a mother, she's literally she's going crazy because her child, a very mischievous little kid, the child just runs around the home, and whenever the mother is trying to sleep, he pulls the blankets. I don't know why the child is doing it. It's very funny and also shocking at the same time. Anyway, so if you're having such children at your home, do you think it will be possible to stay focused without distractions? Do you think it will be possible for you to stay focused if you're having such children at home? The truth is, it is possible. The truth is, it is possible, but to reach that stage of possibility, you need to actually practice having distraction. Sorry. It is possible if you try to focus at a place in which there are no distractions. All right, no distractions. So if you try to build your focusing ability first, if you build your focusing ability first, when there are places of distractions, since your focusing ability is already enriched and developed and fine-tuned, you'll be able to apply this cognitive aspect as well. So what I'm saying is this: first, try to apply this in a place in which there are no distractions. All right, maybe go to a place, maybe a very calm place, or maybe go to a park. Try to do it in a park. Try to do it in a silent room by closing your door and no sound coming to your room. Try to do it as such, and then if you do it again and again and again, and your focusing ability has increased, you'll be able to do it at a later stage as well. You'll be able to do it when maybe you're just traveling in the bus and there's this horn of the bus, and maybe there's some song playing in the background, like the typical case with all the buses. Even if that is happening, you'll still be able to focus. But for that, you'll need to have good focusing ability. So try to stay focused without distractions. All right. Several researchers, including Benson, have found that those who perform this contemplation twice a day for 15 to 20 minutes each session will notice a marked improvement in their psychological and physical symptoms and become more optimistic, more protective, and more capable of creative thinking. The people who would like to learn more about meditation and everything, I would very much suggest Dr. Benson's research papers. And Sufyan al-Thawri, he quoted by saying these lines of poetry. He said that when a man is used to contemplation, he will learn a lesson from everything. Even if you see a small rock, you'll learn a lesson from that. If you see a small ant walking across your table right now when I'm speaking, you'll actually learn a lot of lessons from it. You'll learn a lot of lessons from it. So everything that you see, you'll learn lessons from it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful stage. Beautiful, beautiful stage. And the next step is try to do adhkar along with concentration. Try to do adhkar along with concentration. If you do that, the experience will be much more blissful. Saying Subhanallah, saying MashaAllah, saying Tabarakallahu Ahsanul Khaliqeen, saying La ilaha illallah, saying Allahu Akbar. These are all beautiful. They are beautiful. All right. If you do that, you will get to that stage of spiritual bliss, inshallah. And it is of interest to know that Benson strongly maintained that after patients become proficient in meditation with the faith factor, they no longer need to lie down or sit in a relaxed position. They can relax, meditate, repeating their focused words of faith, even when they're walking, jogging, or swimming. And this is very, very shocking. When I read this, you know what the first words that came into my mind? It is this: Surah Al Imran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, the believers, Ibad al-Rahman, the believers, they remember الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم, which means they remember Allah while they're standing, they're sitting, they're lying down on their sides. And here Dr. Benson is saying that if you practice contemplation with a meditative factor for a long period of time, you won't be distracted after that. You can just do it anytime you want, and you can get to that spiritual bliss. You can just do it anytime you want, anytime you want. And in Al Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in chapter 191, the true believers, they remember Allah when they're standing, sitting, and lying down. So the correlation here is too strong. It's too strong, subhanAllah. So the fundamental thing we need for contemplation to work really well, it is, believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have that, so you will reach the stage, the fourth stage, and that is the stage of spiritual contemplation, spiritual cognition. With this, we are ending. This is actually a very good equation. Depth of contemplation is equals to F, which is, faith, into C plus K plus Q plus etc. Just take a screenshot of this slide and you can read it and you will understand. All right. So what this is basically saying is that if you want more contemplation, there are a lot of factors that determines it. The first, the C stands for your ability to concentrate. The K stands for the ability or your knowledge in that particular thing. And Q stands for qualities of the object under contemplation. You can add a lot more variables. You can add P, which is the personality of the person. You can add, maybe D, which is distractive quotient, etc. But then all this gets added up. But the multiplicative factor here is F, faith. F, faith. So let me ask you a question. Which variable, if we change its value, is going to have the most effect? Is it going to be C, K, Q, or F? Very good, F, right? Just changing a small value of F, leads to a big change in the depth of contemplation. Regardless of how much K you have, how much knowledge you have, if you don't have F, then it's going to be a 0, right? Then it's going to be a 0. So you got to have as much as faith factor as possible. This goes back to early discussions we were having. We need to stay away from doubts and we need to strengthen our iman. If we have iman and we do contemplation, experience will be beautiful. Experience will be beautiful. And there are a lot of courses online that you can take for actually improving your iman, to have yaqeen. Just like we mentioned, no doubts course by Brother Hamza Zorsis. He has a good book, Divine Reality, highly recommended. Then we have Brother Hamza Karamali, who also has podcasts online about philosophy and dealing with doubts. There are a lot of good da'is online. I do not wish to name them because the list is huge. You can just go and search it up and you'll get a lot of platforms wherein they're conducting courses to get your faith sorted out, having consistency, conviction, certainty, etc., having yaqeen, etc. All right. So if you do that in a proper manner, you'll have strong faith factor. If you have a strong faith factor, you'll be able to have a deeper depth of contemplation. And all of these, like a lot of these scholars, they used to do contemplation in a very, very deep manner. Imam Ghazali, he used to do contemplation. He used to look at the birds. He used to think about the different characteristics of the birds. He used to think about how they fly, what are their unique abilities, etc. If you look at other scholars, Mustafa Mahmoud, he contemplated on the ant, their ability of communication, the ant hill, he contemplated about that. So we see a lot of examples of contemplation in earlier scholars. So try to learn more about the object of contemplation, which is the K factor. If you have more K factor, you'll actually be able to increase your depth. And contemplation is actually a form of worship. So when you're doing it, you are getting rewarded, just like Dr. Malik Badri says in his book, Contemplation, a Psycho-Spiritual Study. With that, we are coming to the end of today's session. The time is exactly 12 o'clock now, so which is exactly 1.5 hours. So with that, we are ending. So what I'm asking you to do is contemplate, use your minds. Islam is not a religion that says, shut your minds down. Islam doesn't say that. Contemplation, thinking, pondering, introspection, this is a very important part and parcel of the entire Islamic paradigm. All right. very sad reality is when I see ex-Muslim atheists who say that Islam is a religion that doesn't give focus to using your minds, I literally feel sad for them. Like, I just really feel sad for them because they haven't understood the importance of contemplation in Islam. So try to read as much as books as possible. Iqra, and try to think as much as possible, try to contemplate as much as possible, try to introspect as much as possible on the base of the Quran and the Sunnah, so that we can always be guided. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to use our minds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to properly contemplate about the nature, about the world as a whole. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to connect the creation to the creator, which was a theme of this session. As a whole, we are connecting to the creation, to the creator through the contemplative methodology. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the coordinators, the guides who have been working really hard, to get the system running. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward each and every one of you who participated in this session with a very clear, sincere, genuine intention. So the assignment you have for today's audio task: submit an audio task today itself before you go to sleep. This is very, very important. It's very easy. So say inshallah that you will do it. Say inshallah you will do it. And let me remind you, this is your responsibility. All right. When you got into the course, you fill the form. So this is your responsibility to do the task. If you don't do it, the guides may not ask you, but Allah is going to ask you. All right. So do the task as efficiently as possible. And one more thing, everyone here, are you guys friends to each other? Are you guys friends to each other? Okay, somebody said no. So are you guys enemies? Come on. So what I'm saying is COJ is not just, IPD sessions and posting the tasks. COJ is companions of Jannah, right? It's companions of Jannah. So you're supposed to be companions to each other. They're supposed to know each other. You're supposed to support each other. And that is one of the reasons why we formed the MyCOJ group. If you're in the MyCOJ group and you're not participating, you're not saying anything, and the guides are trying their best to say something, and you're not participating, what you're basically doing is a zulm, I would say. Like, you're basically affecting the entire structure, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you an opportunity in MyCOJ. So what I'm asking you is try to be as active as possible in MyCOJ group. Try to connect with each other. Try to connect with the guides. Have informal conversations. If you can meet up, offline. And very strictly, this is gender segregated, right? So we don't have that particular risk here. So if you can meet offline, or you can call each other on the phone and just get acquainted with. Try to do it, because you are companions in the end, companions of Jannah. In the next week, we'll be having a session about companionship. This is very, very, very important for you guys to attend. We also talk about what the fundamental idea between or inside companions of Jannah is, and how to properly use the structure. If you attend that session, you'll get a very good clarity, inshallah, very good clarity. And also another reminder is at 5 p.m. Oh, sorry, which is in Egyptian time, at 8:30 p.m. Indian time, we're going to have a session on tahajjud. This is going to be a session that is going to be very, very beneficial, extremely beneficial, inshallah. I'll be sharing a few personal experiences that I had as well. And also, you'll learn a lot. And we are starting a tahajjud challenge this Monday. We're starting a tahajjud challenge. Who would like to be part of the tahajjud challenge? Who would like to be part of the tahajjud challenge? And this is going to be an amazing, amazing experience, inshallah. When you do tahajjud consistently, we're having something called as streaks, and we'll explain more in the next session. If you do it consistently, the change that you're going to have in your life is going to be huge, very, very huge. It's a very powerful spiritual practice. We'll have the discussion later on in the session, but now the time has gone really forward. It's time for Dhuhr here. It's time to go to Masjid, so we'll be stopping now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all from the zulm and the shar of doubts and desires. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إننا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل خير بلا حبك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for that very eye-opening session. May Allah SWT help us all apply what we learned today and reach that levels of contemplation that we learned today, inshallah. So I welcome Sister Fadia to give the conclusion message.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope I'm audible and clear. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulil ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Firstly, I would like to remind you of the feeling that we had during the contemplation task we did today while in the session with Brother Wafi. Think about what you all felt. How beautiful it was, right? Now imagine if we do this on a daily basis. What would happen? Will it make us more humble? Wouldn't it help us appreciate the 99 names of Allah in a better way? Wouldn't it give us more calmness? Now with that, I hope we all get to experience this feeling and we try our best to practice this beautiful, beautiful activity throughout our life and make the most of it and reach that highest level of spiritual cognition, which our scholars have reached. And that is going to benefit us a lot in our dunya, and it was more interactive and interesting compared to other sessions, and also provided us with a lot of insights as usual. Barakallahu feekum, Sister Sahla, for Rajwa for
I think Sister Fadia has some connection issues. I'll continue from where Sister Fadia left. So, Jazakallah khair for attending the session. We hope that this session opens new doors for everyone in the realm of contemplation. I thank everyone who worked behind this to make this a smooth flowing session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.